Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to PyCode. Today, I, Arnav Shukla, will be taking you guys through the solution of flow of control. So, without wasting any time, let's get started. Question 1. What is the difference between else and elif constructive if statement? So, the difference between them is that like when you have elif, it uses multiple statements where you are making a selection or a decision. But if it's just a simple else statement, you're just making one decision. There are not other constructs which you have to keep in mind. So let's say if there's one else, so if a is not true, then else b can be true. But if there's elif, there can be b, c, d, e, and so on. So that's pretty much the difference between them. Then coming to the range function. Now the range function is used to iterate over a given set of loop. So what it basically does is that instead of repeating a particular set of block of codes n number of times, let's say we want to print the first few natural numbers, let's say from 1 to 100. So we can actually use the range function for that. So let me give you a quick example by by printing the natural numbers. So let's say for I in range 1 comma 10, print I. So basically what this does is it chooses numbers between 1 to 10 and it prints that. So 1 to 9 will be printed, as you can see. Coming back, next is differentiating between a break and continue statement. So, putting it in very simple words, we know that. So, if you're using, let's say, a break statement, so if the loop is being run, suddenly once the break statement comes, it will break the loop. The loop actually terminates. That's the correct terminology for that, and it moves outside the loop and sees if there's anything else. But if it was a continue statement, it will ignore that particular value when continue is being placed inside the loop, and it will keep on giving a set of values at the as the output, excluding that which has continue. So let's say in the same statement, if let's say for I in range 1 to 10, if I double equals 4, continue, and here we're printing I. What this will basically do is it will just print 9 in this case. Okay, so this was the continue statement. What we can, or another method to help you understand this better is, let me just give you a simple example. So let's say the number is 0, and let's say for num in range 5 plus equals 1, num double equals 4, continue. Print num. Right. So the correct example for this, basically what this does is that let's say we're increasing the number by 1 every time, and if the number is 4, it will actually skip 4 and print the rest of the five numbers. Okay, now coming to the next question. An infinite loop is basically like a loop, like a loop which runs endless number of times, because the loop is never getting terminated. Whatever you've actually placed inside a particular set of code inside the loop is never ending. It's never breaking. So since the test condition for the loop never becomes false, it runs infinitely. So let's say we had a number num equal to 20. Now, while num while num is greater than 10, print num and num plus equals 1. So something like this shows that the loop never ends. It keeps on running and running. because we know that since the number will always be greater than 20 and we're just adding 1 every time, sorry, the number will always be greater than 10, so it never ends. So if you see it, it's still keeping on going. Okay, now this is an output finding based question. Over here, it says that A is 110, and now while A is greater than 100, that is true, we're printing A, but every time A is being subtracted by 2. So let's say first it was 110, it printed 110. Next time 108, 106, and so on. Let's try running this. Now as you can see, it's subtracting itself by 2 every time starting from 110. And since the condition was that A always has to be greater than 100, so once it comes to 102 it stops, because if it turns to 100 then this condition becomes false. Since A is, it's not written that it's greater than equal to, it's just greater than. So this is the correct answer for this. Now here it says that, so this is the start value. Whenever we are using a range function, there are three parameters here. So one is the start value, this is the step size, and this is when it ends. Now for end, you always subtract 1 from it, and that is actually the value where it ends. So to put that into perspective here, it will start at 20, increase by 2 until it reaches 29, not 30. So 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. And we're simply printing that. The third one, the country is India, right? Now, what this is basically doing is it is individually picking a character in this, and it is printing that. So I is basically individual characters like I, N, D, I, A. So it's just printing India but in new lines. Now, fourth one is basically initially we're taking I to be 0 and sum as 9. Now while I is less than 9, and if I mod 4 double equals 0, sum plus equals I. And we're incrementing I by 2 and then simply printing the sum. Okay, so now basically I mod 4 will double equal 0 only when I is 4 and I is less than 9, right? So the sum will equal to the sum plus the previous value, which will be 4 plus 8 basically, and that will be actually 12. Okay. Now in this question, the range is given as 1, 2, 3, and y is in the range 2, 3, 4. Now if x times y is greater than 10, we're breaking it and simply printing x times y. So that is just like 2, 3, 4, 4, 6, 8, 6, 9. Okay. Coming to the programming exercises, right? So the first question says that we have to take the name and age of the user as input, and then simply display whether the user is eligible for driving license or not. We just have to take two inputs, show that if the age is greater than 18, then the person is eligible using if and elif statements. Now question 2. Question 2 is asking us to print the table of a given number, and the number has to be entered by the user. Okay. So let's say the number entered to be entered by the user is num. Now we are taking the range to be 10 because we want to print a multiplication table only 10 times. Now what we are simply going to do is num, let's say product equals num times I, and I plus equals 1, and we print the product. We print I. Let's take I actually to be 1. Okay. So I equals 1 and we're printing I comma. Okay, so 2 times, so I is 1 time. Oops, this is giving us an error. Let me rectify the code. Okay, so I had actually made an error here. And to rectify that, firstly, this will be 11 because we're starting I to be 0, right? And I plus equals 1 did make sense here. That's just redundant and not required. So what we are printing is basically the number times something which is I, which equals to the product, right? So I'm pretty sure this will work. Okay. Okay, so to rectify the code, okay, so to rectify the code, we had to take it inside the loop, the print statement, because that's only how it's going to print the table. You see here it runs perfectly fine. What we did was we inputted the number, we took it the range to be as 11 so that it could take the numbers from 0 to 10. Then the product is actually the number times I, and I first is 0, so 0 times the number is 0. 1 times the number is the number, 2 times the number is the number times 2, and then we're simply printing the number with this multiplication sign and with I, which is basically 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that is actually printing the product. So coming to the next question, it asks for us to print the maximum and minimum of 5 numbers entered by the user. Okay, so let's take an input from the user. Let's say what I'm basically doing here is creating a list and we're adding n to it every time. Now what we can do is that we can create an empty list by this thing, which is the empty square brackets, and simply printing the max and printing the minimum value in the list. Print max of the list and minimum of the list. Yeah, as you can see, it's printing the max and the minimum number. Okay, now to check if the year entered by the user is a leap year or not, what we're simply going to do is we have to take multiple test conditions, right? So firstly, let's say n is equal to int for excuse me. What we're going to do is basically check if n mod 4 double equals 0, or just a second. Okay, so if the number is divisible by 4, or taking this in brackets, num mod 400 double equals 0, and this should be or num mod 100 not equals 0. Then what we do is we simply print the number to be a leap year, else we print that the number is not a leap year. So let's say the year 2000. See, so 2000 is a leap year. Going to the next question, we have to generate the sequence, which is basically multiples of 5, but every first, third, and fifth number odd place shows shows a negative sign, but it's simply printing multiples of 5, right? Okay, so this is how we're going to do this. Okay, so for this, what we're basically going to do is we're going to input a number. Okay, let's just take this, and if the number, first we'll take a range, obviously, because what you want to do is print the numbers, but they should be in a range, right? Because we don't want to go over them. We want to iterate over them. And num plus 1. This should be num plus 1 because I told you always that whenever it's ending, like the start, the parameters, the start, stop, step. So when it's stopping, it's always one less. So what we actually want is plus 1. Okay, so now we know that if I mod 2 double equals 0, which basically shows like the position of I, like let's say it starts from 1, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So now if that is so, then we're actually printing I times 5 and n equals space, else we print I times 5 but minus 1. I times 5. Let's see. Oops, so okay, so let's say we want to take the number 5. So minus 51, 5, 10, minus 15, 20, and minus 25. These are the numbers which are actually going to get printed. Now, since we've used end equal to space, we are going to get printed in the same line. But let's say so what this basically does is that it adds some space between them, and it acts as actually like like at the end there's a space. So this is how we're going to do this problem. Coming to the next problem. Okay, so what I've basically done in this question is the question asks us to find the sum of so and so numbers, right? Now, since 1, you know that even if n is 1 or n is 2 or n is 3, if n is so n will always be 1, right, in the beginning. So we can actually take the sum initially to be 1, as I've taken right here. We have then inputted the number. Now this is actually not required. Then what we've done is that we've taken the range to be n, and we're just adding the sum to 1 by n cube, since it's of the format 1 by n cube right here, and we're just simply printing the sum. So let's say I take 2 here, so the sum comes out to be 1.25. That is because 1 plus 1 upon 8 is 1.25. So moving on to the next question, what we're doing is we're finding the sum of the digits of an integer number which is input by the user. So now we're inputting a number from the user, which is basically n, and after that what we're supposed to do is find the sum of the digits, right? So what we can do right here is, for I in n, s plus equals teacher of character, and sum is equal to 0. So let's try running this. Okay, so this is okay. So what it's basically asking us first. Okay, so let me first split the numbers. Let's say L equals S dot split, and then we can, like, after splitting the numbers, what we can do is we can print sum of L. That's one way of doing this. To be honest, this is by far the simplest method. So and dot split. Okay, so this is not correct. Give me a second. So what we can do here is we can firstly take the sum to be 0, the digit to be 0. Now for I in range n, the digit is equal to the number n mod 10, and sum is equal to plus digit, this should be times 10. So sum plus equals, so we're taking num right here. So basically what this program does is that firstly sum and the digit have been taken as 0, and what we're doing is that inside the loop what we're checking is that firstly let's say that the number was 51, so the digit turns out to be 1, so sum is 1 now, since it was initially 0, so 0 plus 1 is 1. Now the number is 51 more, integer division 10, which is 5, so the number is actually now 5. We can actually write this as n equal to n. Now this is 5, so now the digit becomes 5 more 10, which is 5, so sum plus equals the initial 1, so 1 plus 5 is 6, so that's how 51 sum comes out to be 6. So here let's say this was 51, so we get the sum to be 6. Okay, so now the next question is a very simple question which basically checks if the number is a palindrome number or not. Okay, so let's take n to be the input, right? and let's say x is equal to n minus 1. What this basically means is the reverse of n. Now if n double equals x, print palindrome, else print not palindrome. One, two, four, four, two, one. Okay, so x is equal to this. So what we can basically just do is convert it to a string, since it's not mentioned here that we can take it in any format, right? So see, this is a palindrome number because it's same from both sides. Another method could have been to actually, find the reverse. Okay, so let's take the long method. So reverse is 0, digit is 0. So for I in range n, digit is equal to n mod 10, reverse plus equals n times 10 plus digit for I in range. Let's say we choose a temporary number here. So temp is equal to n and reverse is equal to plus equals n times 10 plus digit, and temp is equal to temp 10 and printing reverse. Okay, now if n double equals reverse, print pal, else print not pal. Okay, let's just try this. I'm not sure if this will work. So yeah, the code is incorrect, right? Now we have to check what we've done wrong. For I in range, temporary digit is equal to num. So let's say we took 51. So digit is equal to 51 divided by 10 modulus 10. So what that gives us is 1. The reverse plus equals n. Let's n is the number plus the digit. So let's say number was initially, so the reverse is plus equals n. So this is temp is equal to this. So let's say 51, right? So 51, 5 into 10, 50. Initially it was 51. So let's say if it was 41, so or 42. So if it was 42, remainder would be 2. So 2 and 10 times the digit plus 10. And okay, so next time let's see if this works. Okay, let's see what error we've made here. Okay, let's check this one out. Okay, so some of the changes that I've made here is that the digit, firstly, we take the reverse is the reverse times 10 plus the digit, and then finally, we're just taking the integer division of that. So let's try running this out. Okay, so 1 2 4 4 2 1. Okay, so what we can do here is make some changes. Okay, so after making some changes, it's pretty much the same, but we're using a while loop here. That just makes it easier. So since the number, if for it takes it only if the number is greater than 0, and we're checking between temp and reverse. So now reverse is equal to reverse times 10 plus a digit, and num equal to num upon 10. And then we check if the temporary number is equal to the reverse number. That actually helps us find if it's a palindrome number or not. So let's say it was 464, then the number would be a palindrome number. Okay, so that was it for today's session, and I hope you all enjoyed and you got to learn something from it. Keep tuned for more such videos on NCERT solutions, and don't forget to check our website mentioned in the description box below for more such solutions and content available for your practice and reference. Thank you, everyone.